My name is Fletcher Reed. I'm 32, recently divorced, and for the first time in years, I live alone. I moved into a small apartment on the 6th floor of a creaky old building downtown. It's nothing special, but it's mine. Or at least, it felt like it was until last week. It started with the peephole. One night I got home late from work and noticed something odd. The hallway light outside my door was flickering, and there were faint scuff marks on my welcome mat. I peered through the peephole out of instinct. Just darkness. But then, I thought I saw something move, something like a shadow retreating. The next night, I heard it. A light knock, not like a fist, but more like ... fingertips. It came at 2:14 a.m. I stared at the door, held my breath, and tiptoed to look through the peephole. Again, nothing. The hallway light was on this time, fully working. Still, no one. By the third night, I was getting paranoid. I set up my phone to record the hallway through the peephole, using an elastic band and some duct tape. I fell asleep, with the camera running. At 2:14 a.m., I woke up to that same soft knocking. My heart was already pounding before I checked the video. I scrubbed through the footage until the timestamp hit 2:13, and then I saw him. A man, mid-40s maybe, pale, thin, with slicked back hair, and wearing a brown trench coat. He was standing directly in front of my door, staring at the peephole, not knocking, just watching. Then, he raised his hand and gently tapped 3 times. He leaned in close enough for the lens to catch the glint in his eyes. He whispered something, but the phone didn't catch it. After a full minute, he walked away. I went to the building manager. Her name's June, and she's about 97. When I showed her the footage, she squinted and said, "That looks like Mr. Heron, but he passed away 5 years ago. Used to live in your unit." I stared at her. "What?" She just nodded and shuffled off, as if that answered everything. That night, I locked every bolt, wedged a chair under the handle, and didn't sleep. But at 2:14 a.m., the knocking came. I didn't dare look. I buried my face under a pillow, trying not to breathe. It stopped after 3 knocks. Then came the sound of metal turning. The deadbolt, something was unlocking my door. I leaped up and ran to it, but it was still shut. Every lock was in place. I checked the hallway. Nothing, but the welcome mat was flipped over. I turned it back, heart in my throat. Underneath was a single Polaroid, a picture of me, asleep, in my bed. My name is Theo West, and I've realized something terrible in being erased. Not in the way people forget, not in the way memories fade. I'm being removed from existence. At first I thought it was all in my head. My mother stopped calling me by my name. The bank told me there was no account under my social security number. I couldn't get into my own apartment because the locks were changed. But the landlord had no record of me ever renting there. I kept checking my phone, social media. But the more I looked, the more people said they didn't know who I was. Even my best friend Mark. He didn't recognize me. It was as if I was fading. But every time I tried to remember what came before, I felt like I was being pulled, like someone was rewriting the story of my life. It wasn't, until I found the letter that I understood. It was sitting on my kitchen counter when I got home. No return address, just my name, typed in bold, across the top. "You're not supposed to be here anymore." I went to the library to search for something that could explain this. The librarian knew my name. She said I used to come in regularly, but then the system showed I was never registered. Then she said it. "Your file has been erased." I don't know how to explain it, but that's when I realized I am not the only one who remembers me. There's someone else, someone who's been watching me fade. The worst part, I think it's been happening for years. The more I search for myself, the more pieces of me are lost. Places I've been, things I've done, conversations, none of it exists anymore. Today, someone stopped me on the street and said, "You look like him." I asked. Who? The stranger smiled. The one they erased. And then I felt it like a pull in my chest, something growing tighter. The air felt wrong. I ran home, but when I opened the door, I didn't exist anymore. I'm still here, but I don't think I'm meant to be. My name is Milo Cray, and someone is wearing my face. Not metaphorically, not online, literally. It began 3 weeks ago, when my coworker Arlen asked if I'd been at the corner store near midnight. He swore I ignored him, but I was asleep. Next day, my neighbor mentioned how quiet I'd been when I walked past her on the stairs. I'd been out of town. Then came the elevator footage. Building management emailed me about odd behavior. Attached was a video. There I was, same hoodie, same posture, just standing inside the elevator, facing the corner, not moving. 43 minutes. I told them it wasn't me. They didn't believe me, so I waited. Hid in the hallway one night, and just before 3 a.m., he showed up. Me, but wrong. His face, my face, was smooth. Too smooth. Like skin stretched over something else. The eyes were hollow, almost wet. His mouth didn't move when he turned toward me, and yet I heard him say, "You're doing a poor job, Milo." He vanished around the corner. I followed. Nothing. That night, my phone rang. The screen said, "Milo Cray." My own number. I answered, breathing then. I can do this better. Now, people look at me differently. My boss says I've changed. Friends avoid my texts. Even my reflection doesn't sync up anymore. I smile. It hesitates. This morning, I got an eviction notice. It was signed by me and scrawled at the bottom in red ink. There's only room for one. My name is Ivy Rell, and someone is stealing my dreams. I don't mean I'm forgetting them. I mean, I see them outside my sleep now. It started last month. I dreamed of a man in a wide-brimmed hat, standing at the edge of my bed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. Typical sleep paralysis, until the next morning, when I found dirt at the foot of my bed. I laughed it off. Weird coincidence, right? Until I dreamed again, this time of drowning in a bathtub, hands gripping my ankles. From below. 2 nights later, the plumbing in my apartment burst. Bathroom flooded. Black water rose as high as my knees. Plumbers couldn't explain it. Said it was like someone forced pressure backwards. After the 3rd dream, I stopped sleeping. That one was the worst. I saw my own body cold blue, lying in a forest clearing. My hands folded on my chest. Someone whispering in my ear, "You look better this way." I haven't even been near a forest in years. But yesterday, I got a letter. No return address. Inside, a photograph. Me, in the clearing. Exactly like the dream. On the back, "You're giving me such great material." I started recording myself sleeping. Set up a motion sensor. I only got one alert. 3:36 a.m. A shadow passed over the lens, but there was no sound. No footsteps. Just a strange static hum. When I woke, my wrists were muddy. There were leaves in my hair. He's not just copying my dreams now. He's pulling me into his dot. And tonight, I got another note, this time whispered, directly into my voicemail. "Sleep tight, Ivy. I'll be dreaming of you." My name is Jace Holloway. I moved into this basement studio because it was cheap, and honestly, I didn't have many options. Fresh out of college, broke, and trying to stay in the city. The place was rough. One window, a radiator that sounded like a dying walrus, but it was mine, or so I thought. My landlord, Mr. Caver, was friendly in a weirdly formal way. Late 60s, wore a body every day, smelled like antique books and moldy coffee. He lived upstairs. First day I moved in, he gave me a set of keys and said, "Privacy is a privilege. Treat it well." I laughed. He didn't. The first week was normal minus the occasional footsteps at night. I figured it was just a creaky old house. But then I started noticing things. My towel was damp when I hadn't showered. My fridge was slightly ajar in the morning. A spoon in the sink I hadn't used. I changed the locks. Caver wasn't happy about that. I must always have access, Mr. Holloway. Emergencies, you understand? Yeah, I muttered. Emergencies. I started leaving small traps. A hair across the doorframe. Flour on the floor near the entrance. Twice, I found the hair on the ground and footprints in the flour. Someone was coming in while I slept. I bought a camera and hid it behind a stack of books on the shelf facing my bed. I let it record overnight. In the morning, I watched the footage at 2:46 a.m. The door opened, CAL. 5ER. He walked in like he owned the place, because technically, he did. He stood at the foot of my bed, just watching me. Then, he took something from his pocket, a small, leather notebook. He scribbled in it for nearly 5 minutes, nodding occasionally. Then, he leaned close to my face, whispered something I couldn't hear and left. I confronted him. He denied it all. Wild dreams, Mr. Holloway. Perhaps lay off the energy drinks. I called the police. They searched his place. They found the notebook. It was filled with entries. Not just about me, but about every tenant he'd ever had. Hundreds of pages. Detailed, obsessive accounts of our daily lives. Habits, favorite foods, fears. One line stood out. Jace cries in his sleep. He doesn't know I know. He will soon. The officers confiscated it. They said they'd press charges. But that night, I got home and found a note on my pillow. In the same handwriting. You shouldn't have read my book, Jace. Now I'm writing a new chapter. The final one. My name is Carter Vale, and I haven't seen my own face in 3 weeks. Not because I'm hiding. Not really. It's because every time I try to take a photo, check a reflection, or open my front camera, I don't see myself. I see him. It started with a glitch. I opened Snapchat and flipped the camera. There was a guy behind Meadle, pale, expressionless. I spun around, no one. When I looked back, the screen was black. I thought it was just some creepy filter thing, but it kept happening. Instagram, Zoom, even FaceTime. I opened my camera. He was there. A little closer. Eventually, he wasn't just standing still anymore. He'd moved just barely. A twitch of the head. A blink once. He mouthed something. I recorded it. Slowed it down. He said, "Look behind you." That night, I smashed my phone. The next morning my laptop turned on by itself. My webcam light blinked. A video started playing. It was me sleeping, from the corner of my ceiling, and in the footage. He was crouched above the bed, watching. Not moving. Not blinking. I left my apartment that day and never went back. But he followed. A public bathroom mirror. There he was. Elevator security cam. Same. Someone else's phone accidentally pointed at me. He's always in the frame now. Always behind me. Sometimes inside my silhouette. The scariest part, no one else sees him. They look right at the same screen and say, "There's nothing there, Carter." But I know what I see, and tonight, when I turned my laptop on again, a Word doc was already open. One sentence. Soon, the reflection will be all that's left. My name is Ilara Quinn, and I don't know which one of us is the original anymore. It started when I noticed changes to my routines, subtle things. My toothbrush would be wet when I hadn't used it. My perfume bottle, slightly rotated. My journal, written in pages I hadn't filled. At first, I thought I was losing it. Maybe stress. Maybe sleepwalking. Then, I saw the photo. It was slipped under my apartment door. A Polaroid. Of me, only. ... It wasn't me. Not quite. Her hair was slightly, shorter. Her smile was crooked left side higher, and she was wearing my favorite sweater, one I hadn't seen in days. I locked every door, every window. I set up cameras in my apartment. That night, I stayed awake, watching from my phone. At 3:14 a.m., someone unlocked the door. She walked in me, same height, same face, same scar on the wrist from childhood. She didn't look confused. She looked comfortable. She opened the fridge, poured herself juice, then sat at my desk and began writing in my journal. Her handwriting matched mine, line by line, perfectly. Then she looked up, stared directly at the camera, smiled. I didn't sleep. Next morning, she was gone. I checked the footage. It was wiped clean. All that remained was one frame, her face, close up, a message scrawled in blood red marker across her cheek. You are the copy. I left, stayed with friends, changed locks, switched cities, but she followed. Notes appeared in my luggage, photos taped to bathroom mirrors, each one more recent than the last, the final one. It showed her standing behind me on a bus, that same crooked smile, caption underneath, one of us has to go. Guess who gets to choose? My name is Riley Easton. I run a small YouTube channel, book reviews, horror stuff, nothing major. Just me, my webcam, and the occasional late night ramble. I never expected to grow fast, but about 6 months ago, my subscriber count exploded. A video about cursed books went viral. People loved it, and then came him. He called himself Inkeeter13, at first, just another commenter. But, unlike the trolls and fans, he was always accurate. Disturbingly so. Nice video, Riley. You still chew your left thumb when you're lying. Interesting how you say you're fine after crying for 30 minutes. Reviewing The House of Leaves. Maybe review the book under your bed next. There was no book under my bed. At least, I didn't think so. I looked. There was. A tattered, moldy copy of We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I'd never bought it. Never even read it. I tried brushing it off, some creepy coincidence. Maybe a friend pulling a prank. But Ink kept posting on private videos, unlisted links. He was always first. Didn't sleep well, huh? You should lock your window tonight. I saw what you did to that spider. You're crueler than you think. Stop pretending you're alone. I stopped streaming for a week. I shut down comments, deleted everything. Then I got an email from a burner address. Subject line, your silence is so loud. Attached was a screenshot. Me, in bed, eyes closed. Taken from inside my room, I called the police. They found nothing. Suggested I move. I did. New apartment. Top floor. No online presence. No cameras, no streaming. Just silence. But last night, my doorbell rang. A package, no return address. Inside a phone, powered on. One video file. I played it. It was me, sitting at my desk from a week ago, reading, breathing, lit only by the blue light of my screen. Then, a whisper from behind the camera. I like your new haircut, but I liked the old you better. My name is Nathan Clive, and I think someone is rewriting my life. It sounds insane, I know, but things stopped adding up about 3 weeks ago. First, it was little stuff. I'd walk into a room and forget why I went in, classic, but then I'd find things, notes in my own handwriting that I didn't remember writing. You were supposed to go left. Don't answer the call tonight. Trust no one at work. At first I thought I was sleepwalking, maybe stress, but the notes kept coming, more detailed, more specific, like someone was correcting my life as I lived it. I asked my friend, Jules, about Itchy's, a therapist, training. She said maybe it was some kind of dissociation. Suggested I record myself sleeping. I did. What I saw in the footage chilled me. At 2:11 a.m., I got out of bed. I stood in front of the mirror, completely still for 7 minutes. Then I smiled, but it wasn't my smile. I've seen my own reflection 1,000 times. This one was smug, like it knew something I didn't. Then I whispered, "He's not writing me right. I'll fix it." I jolted awake, had no memory of the night. I deleted the footage, threw out every mirror in the apartment. That same morning, I found a manila envelope outside my door. No return address. Inside, pages typed, my name at the top, dialogue, scenes, descriptions. It was a script of my life, and the last line on the final page said, "Nathan discovers the final page, and then the knock comes." My breath caught. 3 seconds later, someone knocked. I didn't answer. I burned the pages, smashed my phone, left town, went off-grid, but the story didn't end. Because last night, in a motel 3 states away, under the pillow, ... Another script, same paper, same font, only this one started with, "Nathan thinks he's escaped. He's wrong." My name is Lydia Morrow. I'm 27, and until 2 weeks ago, I believed in coincidences. I believed that the world didn't revolve around me, that strange things had simple explanations. Not anymore. It began with a playlist. I was listening to music on the train, the same ride I took every day. I opened my Spotify and found a new playlist under the title "For Lydia, with Love." I didn't make it. I hadn't even used that username before. The profile picture was blank. The description just read, "I know what you like. Weird, but curiosity, 1." I pressed play. The songs weren't just my favorites, they were my secrets, a guilty pleasure from middle school. A song I cried to after my last breakup. Even a recording I'd made of myself humming alone in my apartment. That one stopped me cold. I checked the details. The track had been uploaded 3 days prior. I never posted it. Hell, I didn't even remember recording it. That night, I turned my apartment upside down. I looked for bugs, cameras, anything. Nothing. I even stayed at a friend's place the next day. But the playlist kept updating, day by day. The tracks changed, mirroring my mood, my conversations, even my dreams. One morning, a new title appeared. "I Like You in the Green Shirt." That's what I had worn to bed. I called the cops. They said I was being dramatic, that someone could have hacked my phone, maybe guessed my password. But how would they know? I muttered my ex's name in my sleep. I started watching everyone. The barista who spelled my name perfectly. The neighbor who always seemed to leave when I did. The guy on the subway who never blinked. I didn't know who it was, but he was there. One day, I stayed home from work. I muted everything. No phone, no TV, just silence. I waited. At 3:17 p.m., a knock came. Not the front door, my bedroom window. I live on the 4th floor. I froze. The curtain moved. Someone was behind it. I grabbed a knife from the kitchen and yanked the curtain open. No one, but taped to the glass. On the outside was a CD in a plastic sleeve. No label, just "Play Me" scrawled in Sharpie. Against every instinct I had, I played it on my laptop. Static filled the room, then my voice sleepy, confused. "Who's there?" Then silence, then another voice, low and soft. "Don't be scared, Lydia. I'm writing the soundtrack to your life." My name is Sophia Hale, and I should never have gone back to that treehouse, but I did. I thought I could fix it. I thought I could somehow erase the memories. The treehouse had always been there, in the woods behind my childhood home. It was a place to escape, until the nightmares began. I don't even remember when the first one happened. It's as though the memories themselves twisted over time, bleeding together. But I remember the night I heard it, the voice that whispered my name from inside the walls. "Sophia, ... come back." I hadn't set foot in it for years. Not after what happened to Ben, my brother. We'd been playing hide and seek, and Ben had gone into the treehouse to hide. He didn't come out. We searched for hours, called his name, but it was like he vanished. When we found him, his body was cold, his eyes wide open, and he couldn't speak. My parents never talked about it. They just told me not to go back. But a week ago, I found the key. I don't know where it came from. It was there, on my kitchen, counter-rusted old, the shape of a heart. I don't remember picking it up, but somehow, I knew exactly what it was for. I knew it was time to go back. I climbed the hill again, the branches scraping my skin like fingers trying to hold me back. When I reached the treehouse, everything was still. The wind had stopped. The birds had stopped singing. Even the leaves hung motionless in the air. I put the key in the lock, and the door opened. Inside was nothing. The space was hollow except for a single chair facing the wall. It looked like it had been waiting. The air was thick with dust, but it didn't feel empty. It felt alive. As I stepped inside, I felt a sharp pain in my chest, a tug, like a thread being pulled. It was a pain I knew all too well, like the earth was calling me, or perhaps, like something under it was reaching for me. Then, I saw it. The roots. They were everywhere, twisting through the walls, snaking around the windows. They pulsed, like they were breathing, and at the center, where Ben had once stood, the ground was soft. The wood splintered away, revealing the dirt beneath, but the dirt wasn't normal. It was wet, and it moved. I stepped back, horrified, as something began to rise from the earth. A figure, tall and thin, with Ben's face, but his eyes, they were black, like holes leading into the void. He reached out to me, his mouth opening in a scream that didn't make a sound. That's when I realized the treehouse wasn't just built in the tree. It had been growing out of the earth, using us to feed it. The voices I heard all those years ago weren't just whispers. They were the roots, pulling us into its hollow, pulling us down. I ran, but the ground cracked beneath my feet. As I turned to look back, I saw the treehouse, its door wide open, the roots now crawling out into the field, stretching like fingers, grasping, pulling hand. Then it closed. I never went back to the woods, but sometimes, late at night, I hear it calling, "Sophia, come back." My name is Ellis Crane, and when I was 7, I stepped into a place no child should ever go. The treehouse sat on Windmere Hill, behind my grandmother's crumbling estate. Nobody used it. It was sealed shut, no ladder, no door, just a wooden shell with a small window. My cousins called it the back door. I thought it was just a name, until the night I heard knocking from inside it. 3 soft knocks, then silence. I told Grandma. She went white and whispered, "Don't answer, ever." But curiosity doesn't care about warnings. The next day, I climbed the hill alone. There was a door now, new, painted black, with a golden handle, and it was open. I stepped inside, expecting dust and cobwebs. What I found was, wrong. The inside was too big. Like an entire house had been stuffed into that tiny space. Hallways that twisted, doors that hummed, shadows that didn't belong to anything. There were pictures on the wall of me, different ages, different expressions, some smiling, some crying, one with eyes scratched out. I tried to leave, but the door was gone. In its place was a mirror, and inside the mirror, something else stood in my place, taller, paler, with my face butt stretched, broken. It smiled and said, "I've been patient." Then it reached through the glass. I blacked out. When I woke, I was outside the treehouse, covered in dirt. My parents found me hours later, said I'd been missing for 2 days. But it didn't end there. I see things now, reflections that don't match, shadows that linger. Sometimes, when I pass a mirror, I see that other me still smiling. And last week, I found something in my closet, a small black door with a golden handle. My name is Nolan Thatch, and I used to think the treehouse behind our school was abandoned. I was wrong. It was hidden deep behind the sports field, half-eaten by ivy and time. No one went near it. Kids told stories about a janitor who vanished there, or the girl who jumped and didn't hit the ground. I didn't believe any of it until I saw the curtain move. Yes, a curtain, torn brown, swaying inside the broken window of a house that no one had entered in decades. I stood frozen. Then I saw a face, pale, with no eyebrows, staring at me. Not angry, not scared, just watching. I blinked, and it was gone. I didn't sleep that night, couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day, I brought my phone. I had to see if it was real. I hid behind the fence after practice, waited, and waited. At 6:13 p.m., the curtain moved again. This time the face stayed longer. It was the same man, but something was wrong with him. His eyes were too wide, lips stretched into a grin like someone had pulled strings at both ends. He raised his hand and waved. I ran home, dropped my phone in the sink, shattered the screen by accident. It never turned on again. I didn't tell anyone, but he started showing up elsewhere, in reflections, in windows. Once I saw him standing on the edge of our school roof, just smiling down at me. Then, one day, I came home and found something on my pillow, a small hand-carved figurine. It looked exactly like me, and it had tiny holes where the eyes should have been. That night, I dreamed I was inside the treehouse. Couldn't move, couldn't scream, just stared at the wall, where hundreds of those figurines lined the shelves, each one eyeless, each one twitching. In the corner sat the man, holding a knife. He whispered, "You saw me. That makes you mine." I woke up with blood under my fingernails, and outside my window, in the tree nearest the house, something was carved into the bark, two empty eyes, watching, always watching. My name is Maven Lorne, and the treehouse in our backyard is older than any living thing in this town. It was there before I was born. My father said his grandfather built it, said it was sacred, said we were never to step inside. That was the rule. No one ever broke it, until my cousin Ray came to stay one summer. She was the kind of girl who didn't believe in rules, especially ones made by dead men. She was fascinated by the treehouse, climbed up there her first day, even though I begged her not to. I waited at the base of the tree, heart pounding. She disappeared inside. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then I heard her scream. By the time I got help and climbed up with Dad, Ray was just ... gone. No blood, no trace, just a rope tied in a perfect knot swinging from a ceiling beam. Dad went pale, whispered something like, "Not again." He tore the ladder down that night, but it came back. 3 days later, nailed perfectly in place. Same wood, same rope, same knot. I asked him what he meant by "not again." He wouldn't speak for days. Then, finally, he told me. Every few decades, the treehouse takes someone. Always a blood relative. Always during summer. No matter what they try, the house rebuilds itself. He said his brother vanished in that same place, same way. Said the knot is its signature, its offering. A week later, I found a knot under my bed. Identical. Then another on my doorknob. Then, one morning, a noose hung from my ceiling fan. I never went near the treehouse again, but I started seeing it in dreams. A door, slightly ajar, a warm voice inside, calling my name. Not loud, not forceful, just inviting. Last week, I woke up with rope burns on my fingers. This morning, I found a note outside my window, written in my cousin Ray's handwriting. "It's your turn, Maven. Bring it a name." I haven't told my father. I think he already knows, because he doesn't look at me anymore. He looks at the tree, and sometimes he smiles. My name is Jonas Peck. When I was 12, I built a treehouse with my uncle. It tried to kill me. Uncle Garrett was a carpenter. Big hands, rough voice, but kind. He said every boy needed a place to think. So one summer, we started building boards into the massive ash tree behind our house. At first, it was perfect, solid, comfortable, safe. But on the 7th day of building, something changed. I found a nail in the wood, a long black spike, not one of ours. It was buried deep, and around it, the wood looked diseased, almost like it was bleeding sap. Uncle Garrett frowned and said he'd rip it out later. That night, I had a dream. I was lying in the treehouse. The floorboards moved, shifted. From between the cracks, hundreds of nails pushed upward slowly, like they were growing. I woke up with a nosebleed. Next morning, the treehouse looked different. The boards creaked when they shouldn't. Some nails were gone, others were bent into strange angles, as if twisted by hand. Garrett blamed the heat, but he stopped smiling. By day 10, we both heard it. The knocking, it came from inside. The walls constant, steady, like a hammer tapping from within the wood. Garrett checked for squirrels. Nothing. That night, he didn't come home. I climbed up the next day to look for his toolbox. Instead, I found blood. It was smeared across the wall, running between the boards. No body, no tools, just a note carved into the ceiling. "IT wants to be finished." I tried to climb down, but the rope ladder snapped. I was trapped. The treehouse creaked and shifted. Nails slithered from the cracks like worms. They twisted mid-air and hovered, aimed at me like needles. I screamed. The boards beneath me curled upward like fingers, trying to close. I jumped out the window, landed wrong, broke my leg. I crawled all the way to the porch. Black nails fell from my clothes. Uncle Garrett was never found, and the treehouse, it's still there, rotting, growing. Sometimes, when I get too close, I hear hammering again, like it's still building, still waiting. And now, there's a second floor. My name is Elsie Granger, and my sister died in a treehouse that never should have been there. We moved into my grandmother's old cabin after her passing. It was surrounded by dense woodland, untouched and suffocating. Mom didn't want to be there, but we had nowhere else. A week after we arrived, my little sister Tilly told me about the treehouse. Said it had a ladder made of rope and a red flag nailed to the side. I laughed. There was no treehouse. I would have seen it, but she insisted. "It's where the tree talks," she whispered, eyes wide, but only to me. That night, I followed her. She walked barefoot through the woods like she was sleepwalking. We came to a clearing I'd never noticed before, and there it was. A crooked, splintered treehouse suspended in a dying oak. The rope ladder hung like a noose. It looked ancient, wrong. Tilly climbed without hesitation. I called out, but she didn't answer. Then, her voice echoed from inside. But it wasn't right. Her tone was slower, deeper. "You can come too, Elsie," he says. "You can." I didn't climb. Instead, I ran. When I told my mom, she freaked out. We searched the forest. Police came. Dogs barked. Flashlights waved through the night. No treehouse, no clearing, no clearing, no Tilly. They said she wandered off and probably drowned, but I knew the truth. A week later, I heard tapping on my bedroom window. Tilly stood outside, soaking wet, her eyes hollow. She whispered, "He says I need to bring you back." Then she vanished. The next day, I followed her footprints in the mud. They led to the same clearing. The treehouse was there again, but now a second rope ladder hung beside the first, and a second red flag fluttered in the wind. This time, I climbed inside. The space was impossibly dark. The air smelled like rot and iron, and in the center was Tilly sitting, smiling. "He likes you more," she said. From the walls, Eyes blinked open. Black, empty eyes. I jumped out the window, broke my arm, crawled back home in silence. No one believed me. But sometimes, when I dream, I'm back in that room. The rope ladder wrapped around my neck, Tilly whispering, "You'll like it here." And every morning since, there's dirt on my WINDOWSILL dot, like someone's been waiting. My name is Caleb Witt. I was 9 when I found the hollow in the treehouse floor. My family had just moved to Oregon. Our backyard backed up into miles of forest. On the second day there, I found it hidden high in an ancient cedar, a crooked little treehouse held together by rusted nails and stubborn wood. My dad said it must have been built by the previous owners. I asked if I could fix it up. He smiled, tossed me a toolbox, and said, "Just don't fall through the floor." That sentence would haunt me later. I spent days cleaning it, painting it, making it mine. But the third day, I dropped a screwdriver and heard something strange, not the usual hollow thud of wood. It echoed deeply, like a cavern, curious. I knelt down and knocked. The spot sounded emptier than it should. I pried up the loose floorboard and found a hole not very wide, just enough to squeeze through. The air down there was cold. I stuck my head in and looked around. The space below the treehouse shouldn't have existed. It was like a hidden chamber carved into the very trunk of the cedar. Smooth wood walls, carved shapes I couldn't understand, and a single object, a wooden mask. It was pale, oval, with long slits for the eyes and no mouth. It looked old, wrong. I brought it up. That night, I had the first dream. In it, the tree bent toward me. The mask hovered midair, staring. A voice whispered from inside, "Put me back." I woke up sweating. The mask was on my desk turned toward my bed. I tried to throw it away the next day, buried it in the woods. But that night, it was back sitting on the WINDOWSILL dot, and the dreams came again, more vivid. The whisper now, a scream. Put me back. On the fourth night, I snapped. I ran outside, climbed the ladder in the dark, and dropped the mask into the hollow dot silence. But as I turned to leave, the hatch slammed shut above me. Something moved in the walls. Long cracks formed in the wood, like veins. From those cracks, fingers emerged made of bark, but shaped like hands. They reached for me. Not fast, not angry, careful, like they'd done this before. I screamed, scratched, kicked. Then the floor beneath me opened like a mouth. I fell. I woke up the next morning, lying on the grass, the ladder broken. My parents found me shivering, clutching the mask, eyes wide. I never told them what happened, but I never went back in that treehouse either, because sometimes at night, I hear it creak in the wind, like footsteps pacing above, waiting for me to come home. My name is Nolan Briggs, and I haven't slept through the night since I was 12 years old. That was the summer my cousins dared me to spend the night in the treehouse. We were staying at my aunt's place in rural Montana, the kind of place where the trees talk if you listen long enough. The treehouse sat deep in the woods, built by my uncle when he was a teenager, but nobody used it anymore. My cousin Drew said it was haunted. Typical campfire nonsense. Still, a dare's a dare. I took a flashlight, a blanket, and some beef jerky. The tree was massive, old, twisted like a giant hand reaching into the sky. The wooden planks groaned under my weight as I climbed. The air changed the higher I got, heavier, wetter. Inside, it was small, bare wood, no furniture, just a cracked window and carvings in the wall, names, dates, weird symbols. I laughed to myself. Easy win. Around midnight, I heard it, rustling outside. Not animal rustling, something bigger. Then came the tapping, light, rhythmic, on the walls of the treehouse. I shined my flashlight, but saw nothing. then tapping on the roof. Then under the floorboards. I held my breath. The light flickered, then went out. The darkness was total, smothering. I could hear my own heartbeat echo off the walls. And then I saw them eyes, glowing yellow eyes, dozens of them, blinking through the cracks in the walls. From the window, from the floor, watching me. I backed into a corner, heart racing. "Who's there?" I yelled, trying to sound brave. A voice answered, not from outside, but from within the wood itself. "Why are you here?" I didn't respond. Another voice joined, then another. Dozens, whispering over each other. "He doesn't belong, not one of us. He's not carved in." Then I understood. The names on the wall weren't just kids marking territory. They were offerings, sacrifices. Drew's name was there. So was his sister's. My uncle's, but mine wasn't. The eyes moved closer, pressing in from every direction. I tried to escape, but the hatch wouldn't budge. The walls started to pulse, like the tree was breathing. A root burst through the floor, then another, then hands, not roots, fingers, wooden, jointless, groping for me. I screamed until my throat bled somehow. I passed out. When I woke, I was on the ground, next to the tree. No flashlight, no blanket, just a single word carved into my forearm: belong. Everyone said I fell, concussion, imagination, but I remember the voices, I remember the eyes, and now, sometimes, I see them again in shadows, mirrors, dreams. Last night, I found new carvings on my bedroom wall, names I don't recognize, except for the last one, mine. My name is Eliza Strand. I was 11 when my younger brother Owen disappeared. Everyone says it wasn't my fault, but they didn't hear the tree talking. It started the summer we stayed at my grandparents' place in Vermont. In the back of their woods, nestled high in a gnarled old maple, was a tree house abandoned, faded, and half-eaten by moss. Grandpa said no one had been up there in decades. Naturally, Owen wanted to go. We found the rotting ladder, half buried in ivy. I went first. Every step creaked like it was about to snap, but we made it. Inside was dusty and full of cobwebs, but the view was something else, like standing in the sky. That's when we saw it. A hole in the floor, perfectly round, with thick roots spiraling down into the darkness. It hadn't been cut, it looked grown. Owen leaned over it, curious. "Don't," I warned, but he grinned. Then the roots moved. I swear, they twitched, like snakes sensing warmth. One shot up and wrapped around his ankle. He screamed. I grabbed his hand, tried to pull him back, but more roots shot out and coiled around his legs, arms, waist. He looked at me, eyes wide. "It's calling me," he whispered. "It knows me." I screamed. I pulled, but the tree was stronger. He was yanked downward into the hole, swallowed by the roots like he'd never been there. I ran home crying, but no one believed me. The cops said he wandered into the woods and got lost. Search dogs found nothing. The treehouse was empty. The hole, gone. Just wooden floor. Weeks passed, then months, and then the whispers started. Every time I went near the woods, I heard Owen's voice. "Eliza, come back. I'm still here." Sometimes it came through the pipes, sometimes through the wind. Once, I heard it from under my bed. 10 years later, I returned. The tree was still there, bigger, darker, almost breathing. I climbed up again, heart pounding. The hatch creaked open. Inside, the hole had returned, but this time, it was wider. There was no wind, no sound, till I heard my name echoing from below. Eliza. It was his voice, but wrong, flat, cold. I backed away. The roots twitched again, reaching. I ran, again. But not before I saw it, just for a second. A face, half human, half bark, staring up from the hole. Owen's eyes, Owen's grin. Now, I hear him more often. He tells me things about people I haven't seen in years, people who've gone missing. I think he's part of the tree now, and I think the tree is hungry again. My name is Carter Wilkes, and I've never believed in ghosts. Until the summer I moved into my uncle's treehouse. He had built it years ago, high up in a dense thicket behind his old countryside home. After his sudden passing, the property was passed on to me, along with a letter saying, "Never stay in the treehouse overnight, especially not alone." Naturally, I ignored it. The place was stunning, 2 levels, rope bridges, real wooden shutters. A childhood fantasy turned real. I figured it was just some rustic superstition. The first night I brought my sleeping bag, some snacks, and my laptop, fully intending to camp out stargazing, maybe watch a horror movie to set the mood. But as night crept in, the forest around me changed. At first, it was just the sound. The usual rustling of leaves deepened into something heavier, like something crawling across the canopy. Something big. Then came the whispers, soft at first, almost like the wind. But wind doesn't say your name. "Carter," it breathed, threading through the wooden slats of the walls like smoke. I froze. My flashlight flickered, dimmed, then died completely. My laptop screen went black. Then came the knocking. Not on the door, on the floor beneath me, as if someone or something was climbing up the tree trunk, thumping on each wooden level as it approached. I stayed still, not breathing. The knocking paused right under me. I could feel its presence pressing up through the boards. "Carter," the voice hissed again, closer this time. Too close. I scrambled to the hatch, planning to climb down the ladder and bolt for the house. But when I lifted the trapdoor, I nearly screamed. There was no ladder. It had been there when I climbed up. Now, nothing, just blackness and the slow creaking of branches swaying unnaturally despite the windless night. I backed away and turned to the window to jump, but something stood outside on the branch. Across from me, it was me, or something that looked like me. Its face was mine, but stretched and twitching, eyes hollow, skin paper thin, and cracked like old bark. Its hands were pressed against the glass, fingernails splitting like wooden splinters. "I waited," it said, in my voice. "You were late." It crawled through the window, moving like a marionette on tangled strings. I screamed, threw the chair at it, and dove through the side opening, onto a thick branch. I didn't care if I broke my neck, anything to get away. I crashed through leaves, hit the ground hard, and blacked out. When I woke, it was morning. The ladder was back. My uncle's house stood silently in the distance. No one believed me. Not the police, not my friends. They said. I hit my head, imagined things, but I know what I saw. I know what followed me down. Sometimes, I still hear knocking beneath my bedroom floor. Sometimes, I hear my name said in my voice, and I never, ever sleep above ground.